If you're going to see Holly, I suggest you reevaluate the way you look. Just a thought.
I happen to know that this moment was something of an awakening for a lot of people my age. You know, in the early 2000s, there was really nothing more trendy to plug into an action film than the concept of hacking. Well, that, and of course, a cast of famous actors like John Travolta, Halle Berry, and Hugh Jackman. The movie is 2001's Swordfish, a film that I've always found to be incredibly fun to revisit and still pretty good today. The strange thing is that every time I mention this movie, I'm always greeted with the same thing. Which one is that again? Well, I will have no more of it, so I'm gonna tell you exactly which one that is again.
Too bad, you gotta die. No, wait!
People may not appreciate just how much of an impact The Matrix had on action films. It came out in the spring of 1999, and by the summer of 2000, every movie was copying it.
I know Kung Fu.
That's why you had Jet Li doing Wire Fu and Romeo Must Die, Tom Cruise's Ethan Hunt packing 2 pistols and wearing a black leather coat, while Limp Bizkit sang the Mission Impossible theme, and the gals of Charlie's Angels doing bullet time stunts. It was all due to The Matrix. It changed the game for a while, but one of the movies that owes the most to The Matrix is a little remembered would-be summer blockbuster called Swordfish. It came out in the summer of 2001. Not coincidentally, it was produced by Joel Silver, the man who produced The Matrix, and it would include a lot of nods to that film, including a huge opening bullet time explosion, a techno soundtrack by Paul Oakenfold, who had several tracks in the Matrix soundtracks, and most important of all, sexy hackers. And if you take a look at the black and white poster, well, just look at the one for The Matrix and you can see how similar they are, right? So the main sexy hacker in this one is played by a very young Hugh Jackman in the first role he took after breaking out as Wolverine in X-Men.
I know, but there's a problem. You're not part of the group.
He's cast as a hacker fresh out of jail who's hired by a shady ex-Special Forces op, Gabriel, played by John Travolta, who wants his help siphoning about $9.5 billion from government slush funds to finance his war on terror. And yes, this came out just a few months before September 11th.
But the best crackers in the world can do this in 60 minutes. Fortunately, I need someone who can do it in 60 seconds.
You're kidding.
Along the way, Jackman's old X-Men co-star Halle Berry shows up as a femme fatale employed by Gabriel, and rumor has it she was paid an extra $500,000 to appear topless in this movie. Of course, we can't show you the proof here, but suffice to say it was worth every penny, I think.
Just a thought.
Yet, all the nude Halle Berry and groovy techno music can't save Swordfish from showing its age 24 years later.
Yeah, that's great. Are you done?
Most notably, John Travolta's unfortunate hairstyle and soul patch, the first of many questionable hair and facial hair choices he'd make over the coming decade. The script by Skip Woods was a hot property back at the time this was made, but now it seems like a high-tech Tarantino ripoff, where the movie famously opens with a monologue by Travolta where he talks about Dog Day Afternoon before climaxing in a massive bullet time explosion that knocked us all on our asses back in 2001.
Now, what if in Dog Day, Sonny wanted to get away with it? Really wanted to get away with it?
But now it seems unfortunately dated with bad CGI, even if it was, at the time, the most complicated visual effect in the history of Warner Brothers. Swordfish wasn't the blockbuster that Warner Brothers and Joel Silver were hoping for. It came out at a rather unfortunate time for Travolta, who had the biggest flop of his career just the year before with Battlefield Earth. It was hoped by many that this would be his comeback movie, but unfortunately, that didn't happen. It did do okay though. It grossed $69 million domestically, which for an R-rated film isn't that bad, and another $77 million overseas. But it was expensive. It cost over $100 million, and it actually lost money in theaters. However, it was a very popular DVD, and it likely turned a profit in the years to come.
Do you have any idea of how much money that is today?
It's very much a movie of its era, with it reasonably similar to a movie its director, Dominic Sena, had made a year before, Gone in 60 Seconds, with both films featuring soccer hardman Vinnie Jones in supporting roles, and both of them owing a heck of a lot to The Matrix. A former music video director who broke out into the mainstream with his indie film California, which starred a very young Brad Pitt and Juliette Lewis, his directorial career probably should have picked up some more steam because he was actually a pretty good director. There were a lot of other directors at the time that were working more consistently than he was, and they weren't nearly as good. I'm thinking of Andrei Bartkowiak, who did, of course, all those Jet Li and DMX action movies.
Give me some skin, baby, come on!
While neither of his huge action films were blockbusters, they were relatively well received as far as these things go. One notable thing about Swordfish is that it actually spawned an urban legend. At one point, John Travolta's Gabriel tells the boss who betrayed him, played by the late Sam Shepard of all people, about a man named Robert Cox, who was once executed by Thomas Jefferson on the White House lawn for treason. Of course, this never happened, and it was a fanciful invention for the film. So Swordfish is actually getting a 4K re-release from Arrow Video this month, and it's loaded with special features that do a pretty good job putting it in the context of its era. It is an interesting and fun film to revisit as long as you keep in mind its age. It has a lot of the tropes that you'd see in high-tech movies from back in the era, particularly in regards to hacking.
15.
Whenever a movie made anything about hacking, Hollywood always tried to make it this really complicated and visual process with lots of CGI going inside of computers, following hard drives, following cables, and, they tried to make it cool. And hacking, for anybody who's ever tried it, is not a particularly visual thing, right? I mean, yeah, it's just people sitting at keyboards, and it's not the sexiest thing that you could, do in a big blockbuster. Of course, that didn't stop them from trying as hard as they could with their Matrix-style special effects and Hugh Jackman conveniently being shirtless most of the time that he's doing hacking. There's this one scene that goes on forever that really tries to make hacking look cool, where he's working on a code and he's kind of swearing at the screen and he's drinking, they're playing a cool techno song. It's unintentionally funny right now, but I guess back in 2001, hey, it was considered relatively feasible because if you were like me and you went to see this movie, you really had no idea what hackers do. So hey, this could have been a documentary for all I knew.
Oh, fuck you!
There's also a very silly scene where Hugh Jackman is trying to break some encryption as a test for Gabriel, and not only does he have a gun put to his head to see how well he works under stress, but they even have someone give him a you-know-what in order to motivate him. And yes, he even climaxes, slaps his hands, and finishes the job. Well done, Hugh.
That's our guy.
Meanwhile, poor Don Cheadle is stuck in the hapless cop role with not much to do, and that's kind of a surprise considering that he was breaking out pretty big time around the time this movie was made. I mean, he had just done Ocean's 11, he was in Traffic, he was in all those Steven Soderbergh movies. He was a cool guy and he was prominently featured on the poster, but they really don't give him a heck of a lot to do in this one. He's really just backup for all the bigger name stars.
What are the odds of the two best hackers in the entire world being in LA at the same time?
I'm just a sucker for Disneyland.
It's a surprise that Hugh Jackman actually got to play this role because he was virtually unknown at the time this movie actually started production. I suppose, though, everybody had actually seen the rushes from X-Men and had a hunch that he would be the next big star. So, kudos to them because it certainly happened because Hugh Jackman's profile just rose and rose and rose after X-Men.
And why did you look for my fucking daughter rather than fucking... Hey.
You know who you have to feel bad for watching this movie? Doug Ray Scott. Think about it. The poor guy was supposed to play Wolverine in X-Men, but couldn't do it because of reshoots on Mission Impossible 2. Who knows, if things had gone well, maybe he would have starred in Swordfish opposite John Travolta.
Bitch!
That said, the movie, as I said, wasn't a huge box office hit and didn't really do much for anybody's career, and John Travolta actually took home a Razzie nomination for this movie, which was shared with another film that came out that year, Domestic Disturbance. Neither film is even nearly bad enough to earn a Razzie, but he was definitely on their shit list after Battle for Earth, and considering all the controversy around that film, well, I can kind of see why that was. So while Swordfish is dated in the same way other internet flicks from that era are, like Hackers and the Net, it's a lot of silly fun, but you have to remember that it's definitely a product of a bygone time. But Hugh Jackman and Halle Berry are both good and impossibly good looking, while John Travolta goes full ham in a way that's more amusing than annoying, this time at least. This is more John Travolta in Broken Arrow than it is John Travolta in Battle for Earth or, God forbid, The Punisher.
God damn, what a rush!
Is it worth checking out again? Sure, I had fun with it, and I'm reasonably sure that a lot of you will too when it comes out in its beautiful 4K transfer from Arrow. So give it a watch, if you dare.
Change, change, changing, changing rock. That's the way it should be. Whoa, yeah!
Thank you for clicking on our video, everybody. If you like what you saw here, please make sure you like the video and subscribe and share with your friends who like this sort of content. JoBlo was created by movie fans for movie fans, and we appreciate your support.